The Supreme Court has just overturned Roe versus Wade, effectively ending reproductive justice and abortion access in the United States. This is a clear violation of Jewish religious freedom, as Jewish law distinctly permits abortion and favors the life of the living mother over the potential life of a fetus in most cases. And I will now take us through a couple of the texts that underlie this Jewish right and this Jewish law across many years and many layers of text. In fact, thousands of years going back to the Torah. So the first layer is in the Torah itself. We have Exodus chapter 21, verse 22. It describes there a situation where two people are fighting and they injure a pregnant person who then miscarries and loses the fetus. And in that situation, there is no death penalty prescribed because the loss of the fetus is not considered a loss of life. Rather, there's simply a penalty for bodily injury to the woman. Another text that we have from Mishnah Oholot, this is a text that dates back to the 100 and 200s of the Common Era, says that if a woman is having trouble giving birth, we cut up the child in her womb and bring it forth limb by limb because her life comes before the life of the child. There could be no clearer text prioritizing the life of a woman over the life of a fetus. And this is obviously in the case even when a fetus is about to be born. The only case in which one is not permitted to harm the child is in a case where the baby has mostly already been born. If the child is mostly already out of the womb, emerged, you cannot harm the child. But until that point, maximal point of pregnancy, one is allowed to end the life of the fetus specifically in order to save the life of the mother. Another case, perhaps a little bit more unusual or gruesome, is a case in which a mother is sentenced to death. And when she is pregnant, they don't wait for her to give birth, according to Mishnah Arachin in chapter 1. Because the fetus is not considered a life that they are killing, they do not wait to execute the death penalty on that mother. The only case in which they do wait is when the mother is actively in labor. Then they wait for the baby to be born and then execute the mother. So this is a little bit of a disturbing case, and yet nonetheless shows a clear priority in the Mishnah for the life of the mother and the access to abortion when needed. Then we have a text from the Talmud, which is a later rabbinic text layer, which comes from Yevamot 69b, which describes a woman who is pregnant and the case of whether her fetus is considered a full person yet or not. And the quote says, if she is pregnant until 40 days from conception, the fetus is merely water. So here we see again, the rabbis say distinctly, it is not yet considered a living being for 40 days after the fetus, after conception, which was of course an unknown time. So one could imagine that this would translate to at least a first trimester of the fetus being considered merely water and nothing more. And finally, we have a text from the 19th century Rabbi Meir Simcha of Dvinsk, who discusses the mitzvah of Puru Urvu, be fruitful and multiply, which is a well-known mitzvah in Judaism. And certainly we do value reproduction, we do value birth of children, we do value growing our families. And yet still, even with that value being such a great value in Judaism, this Rabbi Meir Simcha of Dvinsk says that we do not have this obligation upon women, rather only upon men. For he says, the Torah does not burden a Jew with an obligation that he or she is physically unable to handle. Therefore, regarding women who are in danger during pregnancy and childbirth, the Torah did not obligate them to procreate. So we see again that layer after layer of Jewish texts encourages women to have reproductive freedom, or all people to have reproductive freedom, even including abortion, even up to perhaps the moment of emerging from the womb. Until that point, Judaism does not consider the life of a fetus to be a full life, and therefore prioritizes the life of living people who may be pregnant, who may need to not be pregnant, even in a context where we deeply value life and deeply value the growing of families. So I hope that is helpful as we think about the coming days and weeks in response to this overturning of Roe versus Wade, and we'll continue to stand up for our Jewish religious freedom and our reproductive rights.